Yep.
All right, let's open the meeting with a pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation,
Under God. Indivisible.
with liberty and justice for all. We think we made it. Larry, are the phone lines up and running?
They are, yes.
Okay,
And we have eight
All right.
we have 8 attendees, so we're looking good.
okay. All right, okay. Is Kylie on?
I am here. Are you ready for roll call?
I am.
Okay.
Yes.
When I do roll call, I'll need you to state your location. Mark McKellar, which is absent and excused. William Mauser,
I'm here and I'm in my basement lair, my man cave.
Jason Gilman,
Here at home.
and Carl Brown.
Here and at home. Okay. I'm gonna have to grab another thing here so I can see unless Larry can put the agenda up. Hold on here,
Yes.
maybe I can get it.
Well, for us it is.
Yeah, it just needs to be scrolled down to agenda.
Okay,
And it needs to be reduced in size, please,
Okay.
Larry.
all right,
There, that should be good.
okay.
All right, there we go. Now I can see it. All righty. Well, we've done number 2, the roll call. I'm looking for approval of the agenda.
I'll move to approve the agenda.
Support.
Motion by Bill, supported by Jason to approve the agenda. Kylie?
Mauser,
Yes.
Gilman,
Yes.
Merrick, absent and excused. Brown.
Yes. All right, any conflicts of interest with any items on the agenda tonight? Bill?
None.
Jason?
On here.
And myself, Carl? None. All righty, public comment. Kylie, would you read the rules for public comment, please?
Any person may make an advanced appointment with the board regarding road commission topics for a regular or special meeting in accordance with the Open Meetings Act. If an appointment is made, the topic will be an agenda item. The following applies to public comments. Please state his or her name and address. Topic must be relevant to the road commission. Individuals are allowed to speak once for up to 3 minutes on a single topic, which may be extended by the chair. A group addressing the board requires a designated spokesperson who may speak up to 10 minutes. And the board will not act on any item from the public that is not on the agenda. For remote access users, for Zoom, if you wish to participate in public comment, please raise your hand through Zoom. For call-ins, we will unmute callers. If you wish to speak, say yes.
Okay. Larry?
I don't see any raised hands at this time. So we'll give it our 30 seconds here and then go from there. All right, I think we can move on.
All right. Action items. Item A, Beta TC Housing Development, and I guess this is discussion for all of us. And
Larry, can you bring Wayne in for this?
Are you there, Wayne? Hello, Wayne.
He's muted. There he is. Hi, Wayne.
Hello. Good evening, everybody.
Hey, Wayne.
Thanks
Good
for the invite.
All right. Have you had any other further discussion than what we had at the last meeting, Wayne?
We have not. No one's reached out to us for anything on this. So.
Okay. Well, I got a call today from Chuck Korn and in regards to this project, and he was not opposed to an access off the both roads that we're talking about, but in his comments were as long as it met our standards or our ability to put one there. But I've also had some discussion, and none of this has went through any of their planning yet. So I still, and I made the comment last time, I still think we got the cart before the horse here a little bit, not knowing, you know, if you want something approved or whatever, I think you got to have a little more detail than what we've got. You know, I mean, what I see is conceptual, but not necessarily gone through the process for approval with township and that. So it's kind of hard to approve something that you don't know if it's going to be approved or not. Am I clear at that? I guess that's my question for you, Wayne. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. You know, at this point in time, I did have John Slake from Garfield Township Planning reach out to me today just to let us know where they're at with this and how their access management ordinance in Garfield Township kind of pertains to this. And barring our approval, they would allow up to, I believe it is 1 access off of Hammond and 2 off of Lafreniere, but as I read their ordinance, it does require our approval for that. Just applying our asset management concepts straight from the MDOT books, where reasonable access is available on a lower volume road, that's where you put your entrances. Fortunately, their one entrance that they do have shown on Hammond is according to the last drawing that we saw, was 700 and some odd feet, which is good. It exceeds our minimum distances. It would also exceed the minimum distance that we would be looking at for a future upgrade of that intersection if and when it meets the capacity numbers to justify a roundabout. Those numbers are in the neighborhood of around 600 and some odd feet from the intersection, and what they had shown was 701. So it does meet that. Their southern driveway on Lafreniere is substandard in the offset distance from the intersection at some 300 and some odd feet on their last drawing. And so that one would still create an issue with us. The minimum at a 55 mile an hour is 460 feet thereabouts for the distance from the intersection. So as much as I wouldn't you know, care to have a driveway on Hammond, you know, being reasonable, I think that's a reasonable request. And I think if we work with them and they can relocate their driveway on Lafreniere, then I think we can kind of come to a mutual agreement.
Okay. I think, you know, that compromise both ways here, I think. Bill, any comments?
Well, yeah, I'm going to go along with basically what you said, Carl, and the fact that as of this time, there has been no application to the township. So basically, we're talking about something that technically hasn't happened yet, other than in very loose conversations. Also, it's my understanding that their Eagle wetlands survey has not been done either. So, and there are some varying thoughts within the township from feedback I've gotten as far as whether one or two driveways off of Lafreniere, and just exactly how the whole site should be laid out and done. I guess on the standpoint of just looking at it, I don't have any outrage or objection to having a driveway off Lafreniere and off Hammond, if that would help them segregate the traffic. But I would leave the rest up to the township. And that's kind of in a broad philosophical statement. I'd leave it up to the township to look at that as far as land usage and, where the driveways should be, other than falling within standards that we can accept. So I think we're a little ahead of the game, and I don't think we need to make any official action right now, other than a broad philosophical response that we'll be happy to work with them and with the township to come to an amicable outcome.
All right, Jason?
Well, as you know, I tend to, unfortunately, not always side with the recommendations as far as the distance is 460 feet. I mean, it's in the 300 range. If we have development that needs to be developed and there's a certain amount of space to work with, if we can do it without forcing somebody to cross wetlands or share driveways and whatnot, it'd be far preferable. And of course, as it's noted, the type of traffic is segregated, and frankly, it's not a high acceleration point away from that intersection. My inclination, if the township were looking at this saying, do we want to try to pursue this, my inclination would be to support that access in so much as we could do it safely. If we have to widen the access, make it so that they can have egress to Lafreniere a little easier. Obviously Hammond is not a problem, so that point is moot. But I generally support the ability for them to do it. Whether or not they need to is a whole nother thing, and that's for another agency to determine. That's for beta. But as far as for us, I generally don't have a problem unless it's going to create an issue for us in the future.
Okay. Well, I guess I kind of echo your thoughts there too. If I think if township is okay, and then we're not creating a safety issue or whatever on our side there, that's knowing better we shouldn't have done. I think the conceptual drawings that they had, I think they need to go through the township and get their blessing in that, and then we can hammer out the fine details of it, maybe exactly where that entrance is going to be and make it safe. And the same thing on Hammond, and access there, I don't see that to be an issue either. So I guess at this point, I think we've stated our point. I think all three of the commissioners here have basically the same thing tonight. In concept, we're fine with it. Township needs to approve the details, I guess. Is that what you're saying, Jason, too?
Pretty much. I mean, we're, as Bill said, we're not done yet. I mean, they're not done yet. And
Right.
As you said earlier, put the cart before the horse. Well, but I think we should kind of give a sense, hey, we're willing to work with you. That's kind of where I'm at.
Okay. Bill, how about yourself?
Yeah, no, I think we're all in agreement there. The basic concept that having a driveway off of Hammond's pretty much not a problem as long as it meets them, safety standards and engineering standards. Having at least one driveway off Lafreniere is fine. Again, same provisions, and if they can get the township to approve and go along with two, and it again creates no safety or engineering hazards, then I have no objection to that either. But we need to do it in an appropriate way.
All right.
Carl,
Yes.
There is somebody that has their hand up. I'm not sure if she's with the group from Beta or not, or he, but there is somebody there. I don't know if you want to take it or not.
Well, typically we wouldn't, but I guess
Hello,
I'll.
rabbit hole.
Uh-huh.
Hello, rabbit hole.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm just saying. I'm just telling you, there is somebody with a hand up. So it's up to you what you decide, I guess.
Well, let's go ahead. Larry, let him, we'll give him a couple minutes.
We'll give a 2 index to it, okay? Transparency.
Okay. All right. Okay, I have Cunningham. You're allowed to speak here.
Yes, it's Jason Lippo with Cunningham Lamp, owner representative for Beta on the project. Was just going to let you guys know that we are here along with Kelly from Beta and Doug Mansfield as well, if we could help answer any questions. So.
All right.
Wow.
Well, I think I think we've kind of stated our position that, I think your next step is to get your process going through the township. We're willing to work with you on the 2 drives. So I think you got to get it further along than what it is. And I think it was unanimous with the 3 of us and even Wayne that, that we have some room here to make this thing happen for you. So I guess you guys need to do whatever you need to do to get it through the township and the other process. And we'll work with the other details when that time comes. So, all right.
Okay, it's very much appreciated.
Okay. Anything else from anybody on that? Jason, Bill?
No,
Brad?
I don't know what else is left to say or what more we can reasonably do right now.
Okay. All right. Item B, manager's review. I guess we're going to finalize the review process, which I don't have I don't know what's in the overall results from the review.
I know all I can tell you is Jennifer handed them out to you guys when the review was completed, and I never got a copy in it other than the general simple, this is what it was. And then we had the discussion on it.
Bill or Jason, do you guys have a copy of it?
I don't have anything, and I was wondering how we were gonna do in this.
Yeah.
If we're talking about basically saying, okay, we had the review, which we did.
We did.
And if we're talking about going forward and giving them something to work with in the budget for next year, well, that's a whole nother thing.
Well, I think the main thing was when you guys closed it, you were going to come back last month with just the financial ramifications of it, because I think the actual review was done and you guys gave me guidelines for what you wanted to see for next year. But you never said anything as far as for financial end of it. And that was where we kind of left off.
And of course, this stuff doesn't exactly come across easy in a Zoom. I mean, it's not where we can sit down, we can kind of talk things out just a little bit, What did we do last year? What did we wind up doing last year?
I can tell you if you want me to tell you what happened last year. It was not a percentage. It was just a straight dollar amount at 4,000 increase.
Well,
The way we've done it in the past that I recall is, yes, we talked about an increase, a percentage of, and then also then created a dollar figure, a budgetary line item for the manager to use when he did his staff reviews, so that he had a budget to work with to then, his process of dealing with staff.
well, I'll tell you what, and frankly, we've had a lot to deal with this year, and our managers had a lot to deal with this year, and somehow we're still upright. And the review was was good enough, but obviously we don't just take that and put it into consideration. We take a lot of other things into consideration. You know, if it's appropriate, I'll make a motion right now that we increase, all other things being the same in the compensation package, that we increase it $5,000 going forward as a
Okay,
motion.
that's a motion?
Yep.
Okay, I'll certainly second that.
All right, motion by Jason, seconded by Bill, to increase the manager's salary by 5,000 for the year. You know, I'm not quite sure what percentage we're at here with where he's at right now, and then adding this, and not that percentages make a whole lot of difference, I guess. And I know, you know, this has been a trying year and very trying. And that being said, there's nothing normal about what has happened this year. And I'm not sure it's going to start out next year any better, but I could support this also. So I guess, you know, if anybody else wants to chime in, or yourself, Brad.
Do you want to know
feel
what
free.
percentage that is? That's 5.2%.
5.2%.
Yeah, because it's sub 100K. So
Yeah.
Right.
So this will push
Right.
me just over 100. So
Just over.
yeah.
Okay. All right. And yeah, and that's, you know, well within what other road
Well,
commission.
you know, we've
Yeah.
got 50 plus employees. We have a budget of close to $30 million. And frankly, you know, if we were to look at comparables, my guess is that we'd be hitting a little on the low to middle side of the comparables. So
Yeah, I agree. Bill, any comments?
Yeah, just, you know, due to the, and I hate to use this term, uniqueness of the situation with COVID and all this other blah, blah. And the situation, we haven't been able to sit down and have a face-to-face and go through the process as thoroughly as we have in the past. We're taking a little bit of shot in the dark here, and we don't want to shortchange Brad. So I would say, yeah, we go ahead with the 5 now, just as good faith. And I don't know that there's anything that says we can't revisit this in 3 months or 6 months when we've all returned back to normal and look at the hard numbers. And it seems like there was a year or two in the past where we were somewhat a little bit tardy in it, and where raises were granted retroactive to the first of the year if it was felt necessary. So I think we've got a broad palette of things to do. So you know, just keep this moving forward. And I would agree with Jason. I think it probably does at least keep us a little bit on the lower end. And I don't know if that's a place where we necessarily should be. So let's go to the 5 now, and as things return to quote unquote normal, then we can maybe read here first part of the year. And if we feel real bad about the inadequacy of it, we can always make it retroactive.
All
Yeah,
right.
and last year on my first one, it was retroactive also because it wasn't approved by you till January. So
Okay. Any further comments, Brad?
no, I'm
Okay.
fine at this point. I'm content right now. There are too many other things to talk about tonight than this. Right now, we've got a long discussion. Hopefully we can compact it down and make it short discussion. So.
All right. Sounds good. Okay, Kylie, your turn.
You're muted, Kylie.
Okay. McKellar, absent and excused. Mauser,
Yes.
Gilman,
yes.
and Brown.
Yes. Very good. Thank you, Brad.
Thank you.
2020 budget amendment. Number 4, Phil.
Yeah, so I'm gonna try and share my screen here and then kind of walk through. We have our you know, kind of high level budget summary amendment, but I'll go through and kind of explain what's getting moved over to next year and that. So give me a moment while I try to grab the right screen. And you should see something that says 2020
Yep.
budget amendment number 4.
You got it.
Got it.
All right, so, you know, very similar to last year, you know, kind of take a look at the year and kind of true things up to actuals. In the revenue side, the biggest thing is the 3 bridge projects we had and Walton Road. Those did not take place and they will be constructed next year. So rather than keep them in 2020, I'm pulling those out now, and then I'm gonna program those back in on the adopted budget for 2021. So you can see like the federal sources is down 2.3 million, other state sources is down $1 million. That's all directly related to those projects. We also had planned on building out the Kingsley facility. Things have changed a little bit since the initial discussions of just tearing down and replacing. So I took all the financing associated with that project out as well. Down in the expenditures, the construction, capacity improvements, preservation, these are all of our projects.
You need to scroll
And-
down, Phil.
Can you scroll,
Oh, I'm sorry.
Phil? Scroll up a little. There you go.
Is that better?
There you go.
Take it all the way up to expenditures, Phil. A little bit more. There you go, right there.
There you go.
Okay. So this here, the second column to the right is what's getting amended. So I had $5.7 million in total projects were reduced. 5.8 million was moved over into 2021. And correspondingly, 3.3 million of revenue got moved out as well. So we were pretty close to the original. Some projects were over, some were under. I've reallocated the estimated overhead allocations for the Act 51. So we should get pretty close. There's a couple of 2020 projects that are still programmed in here. The big one would be the Boardman Pell study. That one I left in 2020. And once we close out the year, I'm going to go in and see what we didn't spend with the consultants. And then that balance will be pulled into 2021 as a budget amendment. I didn't want to kind of double dip fund balance. So I've tried to treat them in one project year or the other. Let's see. And I think the only other thing on a capital outlay, there's like 35 grand that we're still working with the state to try to get the title with Paradise Township cleared, so we can purchase that property and then hopefully start to do some land improvements and get that facility built in 2021. We did have the Cass Road drain assessment. We should be getting that invoice hopefully this week. So you'll see the $117,000 for that Cass Road drainage assessment getting booked in 2020. Very little changes to equipment. Fringes I did pull down a little bit to actual, and not much change in overhead. So not a whole lot of other changes on the expenditure side other than moving projects around. So what that did is that took us, that'll take us to a projected fund balance of 6.9 million. When we already know fair amount of that's already going to be programmed in the projects, particularly the federal aid. I also have another schedule that looks at, without all of our allocations, things kind of get confusing when you start looking at equipment and fringe and overhead. This is a nice one to kind of look at, you know, where are the checks getting rid out of, you know, through payroll or accounts payable and the corresponding funding source. So, you know, not much else to say on here other than the, you know, you can see, you know, state maintenance contract, federal aid was minimal, primarily because we purchased Houghton STP, so that number got reduced by the amount we had to purchase. That's running through 2020. Let's see, the state, we still are waiting on Eagle to final some of those wetland mitigation projects. So more than likely, we will not see the invoice this year. So that 919,000 will end up getting pulled into 2021 as a budget amendment. And there's no fund balance, there's a corresponding expenditure with that revenue. Other than that, there's not much else that, that was surprising as we kind of went through and closed it out. I got quite a bit more discussion on 2021 when we get to that point. Did you guys have any questions?
Just going back up to the top, I think right at the beginning here. So our budget for after the amendment for this year is going to be 21 million. Is that 21.6?
21.6, yes.
That's correct. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So it's another big year again, really.
It
And
still is
that's
a big
with-
year.
Yeah,
But that's
that-
because we moved stuff forward too, right?
Yeah, if we didn't have to move all the stuff forward because of the delays getting some of the stuff through with all
$8
the
million.
state stuff, it would have been, closer to that 28 million.
Yeah. So that's still for what we pulled out of there. That's still pretty substantial for, for the year that we've had. So.
Yes.
Yeah, and since some of these are kicking over into next year, this is just making next year bigger. Hope. I mean, we did pretty good this year. I mean, surprisingly, we got all of the millage projects completed. We got all of the capital outlay purchases completed. We got servers built. It was a pretty big year in 2020, and you'll see in 2021 it's still going to be a pretty big year. So.
Well, it's amazing. So, all right.
So do we have a motion to approve the budget amendment?
Yes.
Yep.
Second that.
Okay. Motion by Jason, seconded by Bill to accept the budget amendment as presented. I think we've pretty much had our discussions on it. So Kylie?
Mauser,
Yes.
Gilman,
Yes.
Mark McKellar, absent, excused, and Brown.
Yes.
Okay.
Now it's
Rolling
gonna
into,
get fun.
yeah, 2021. So,
Okay.
So, with the way I'm pulling data, I can pull a few more years, and I didn't do this last year, but I thought it'd be nice to see a little more historical context, so you can kind of see little bits of trends here and there. Some things that, are up and down just because of the federal funding and things like that and the projects. But this gives us a good idea of kind of where MTF is trending, the millage, in big ticket items, things of that nature. So for 2021, I'm estimating with the renewal of the millage that they, reset it back to 1 mil, about $4.5 million. Once the collections come in, the treasurer will give us a report and show us what the actual taxable value of the county is and the collections. And so we'll do a little tweaking. I know there is a little bit of primary roads in the city limits that we pull out of theirs. I didn't take that into account. So I think this is a conservative number. I expect it to be just slightly higher than this, but I think this will be a good point to give Dwayne to let him go with the asset management plan and selecting the projects for the millage. The federal and state sources, these are the bridge projects, primarily coming through and Walton Road. We have a little bit of STP that we're going to try to find a buyer this year and sell that. That amount, if we were to sell it, would generate, I think it was like $453,000, which we could then just roll into our program and pull ahead some projects, PM projects. Economic development funds, we were able to utilize our entire category D balance for secondary all-season roads on the Walton Road project. So that's in there. And then we also annually get $49,000 in category E to support our forest roads. Contributions from local units. I bumped it up a little bit with the, typically we have $95,000 for the brining match. But once we get into the project, there's a lot of SADs that are starting to come through. So if they were all to go, this would be the amount of revenue that would be generated from the townships. Other financing sources, I just programmed in basically what we have as an expenditure for the build out of the Kingsley facility. Obviously with the new facility and everything else, we'll have to look at the numbers. I mean, there's going to be other costs for tying into water and sewer because we didn't have, water at the other facility. And so there might be a few more costs, but this is kind of a placeholder until we can, sit down and get a more detailed number. You'll see preservation structural improvements. Let me scroll up here. 15.7 million. A good portion of that is the carryover projects for the bridges. Bridges aren't cheap. Maintenance, I got at 4.1 million. So we kind of took a look at all of the materials and payables we used over the last 3 years, come up with an average, and then we added another 225,000 for small projects. This would be something we would hope to work with engineering and putting out a bid package, identifying, some sites and trying to get a contractor in to fix some of these problem areas. So that's kind of where we're at on maintenance. Winter maintenance is about the same. Price of salt just dropped slightly. Knock on wood, we've been having a very favorable winter this year. So that's always good for us. I mean, it does allow us to go out and do some other duties too, other than just clearing snow off the road. They can actually get some trees and some other maintenance done that we didn't get done in the summer, or get ahead for next year's projects. The one thing I didn't do last year that I did this year is, because of the amount of work we're doing on traffic signals, I split traffic services as its own line on these summary reports. I think it's kind of interesting to kind of look at them separate. You'll see, we typically were $500,000-$600,000. In 2020, we bumped up because we were installing grid smarts and we were doing a lot of infrastructure to these signals. And that's no different for 2021. In this number, I have roughly $400,000 set aside as just routine upgrades for switches and adding pucks and 5 more grid smarts and 4 boxes, controller boxes. So that's all going to be done in conjunction for the Scoot implementation, which I have budgeted in the capital outlay in 2021 as well. We'll get to that later on.
Jason, did you have a question?
Well, I just wanted to comment on this, so if folks are wondering, where some of our study money has gone, I mean, some of these optimization fixes come as a result of some of the earlier studies, just so that people understand it's not, this is what we're doing has not been just going on the shelf and being absolutely useless at great cost. This traffic optimization stuff is helping traffic already, and you definitely see it reflected in the budget here. You go, 5 to 3 years ago, it was somewhat light in traffic services, and then we really put the investment in, and hopefully that makes a difference that we expect by the time it's all said and done.
Yep, definitely. Yes, it's a much bigger investment. We're replacing a few signals too. Putting in new poles and everything. So we've got a lot going in, but a lot of it is that optimization and the modernization of the signal system. So go ahead, Phil.
Yeah, getting down into equipment. I forgot to mention it during the 4th budget amendment, but I was a little light on my estimate of equipment usage. And I basically was showing a like a loss on uses of equipment because I wasn't charging enough credits out of those activities and charging it to where they're using it. So I kind of trued that up, and I kind of mirrored 2021 to kind of where we use the equipment in 2020. It doesn't affect fund balance. It's just pulling out of our direct repairs, depreciation, facilities that house equipment, all of our fuels and things of that nature. And the credits just kind of show the activity where we're utilizing the equipment.
Well, let me ask you this on the depreciation, Phil. You know, and as we're looking at it, we see the higher numbers for the depreciation in the in 2020 and 2021. Now, we have been upgrading our equipment, and early years on new equipment generally loses a bit more, right? Is that a reason why we might be seeing some of those higher numbers?
Yeah, substantially more. So if we had like a piece of equipment that was 5 years on the depreciation schedule, I think like 80% of it's going to be depreciated in the first 3 years. I mean, it's a very modified accelerated depreciation system that the state has in place. And the way depreciation works is it shows as a credit against your capital outlay, because obviously when you write the check, that's when it hits your fund balance. And all the depreciation is trying to do is it's trying to allocate that cost over several different periods, and it's pushing it back up into our mostly equipment charges. I mean, most of our depreciation is winter maintenance trucks and, you know, pickups and things like that. We also have facilities too that we depreciate over a much longer period, typically 25 to 50 years. All of our road equipment is 5 to 8 years. I did bump up the equipment charges a little bit, mostly due to fuel. Fuel prices dropped a lot in 2020, and I expect them to kind of creep back up. So, you know, just to kind of have something, but we'll keep monitoring that as we go through the year. Fringe benefits. Oops, I can only scroll so far before. Well, give me a second. Let me.
Yeah, right.
There's a way to.
Continuous.
Enable scrolling. There we go.
Yeah, now we're talking.
So fringe benefits is up slightly. The last actuarial valuation we had on the pension said that we had to contribute $121,000 for 2021. Some of that I think was due to more conservative assumptions put in place by the state of Michigan, you know, for these, for like investment returns and things like that. Fortunately, and when they did that study, we had 2 people still active in that plan. We currently now only have 1 person active. So I might be able to reach out to MERS and see if they'll give a redetermination and maybe update that number to something a little more realistic. I know the market's back up, way up from what it was when they did the last valuation. So we may owe less than that, but to be conservative, I mean, that's the number they said. So I budgeted it, and we'll address it, you know, throughout the year. Probably once we get the, you know, early into 2021, we'll have discussions with them. Overhead, that one, you know, it shows slightly higher. That's a combination of our crews and engineering that don't get charged direct. I would have to go through the detailed worksheets to see which ones in particular are higher than others. I did kind of true up overhead a little bit in 2020, but all that overhead ends up getting redistributed in the other activities that we're going to budget. So it's just simply a reallocation. It's hard to know exactly where, you know, where all the time's charged. So capital outlay, I have another schedule detailing that $7.2 million that we can talk about. And then admin, one thing I didn't mention is on the labor side, we increased 2 positions for 2021 than when we started 2020. And that's primarily having a dedicated traffic signal technician, and then an IT manager as well. You know, with the city works and everything going on, and we, you know, it's something we want to have in-house. Same with the signals. We've been seeing substantial savings in our contracted services with Windemuller by having our own person on staff that can respond to all of these, you know, little flash modes and, you know, little call outs here and there. Haley's been doing phenomenal taking care of, and if there's bigger stuff, you know, we have Windemuller to help us out with that. So state maintenance contract, that's just a wash. We just got their new budget. They held it flat. 2020 had a lot more TWAs. They had some washouts and things like that. So not much there. And then our normal bond payments for the 2015 and 2018 bonds that we put out. The 15 was, I think, Acme Township for some projects they did. And then we did a 5-year in 2018 for South Airport. Here, the next schedule, this is removing all of the allocations again, kind of looking at, you know, cash going to the various activities and the funding sources. You can see on construction projects, I got the, you know, about 15 million total projects that doesn't have any of our fringe or overhead. 5 million will be funded out of MTF. We got 2.5 million federal revenue, bridge funds, some bridge funds, but mostly STP for Walton Road. 1.1 million state is mostly bridge funds, and then you have the SADs and the local match. Again, I separated out traffic services. With the facility build out, I did split out road equipment versus buildings, and then the capital outlay other would be our, you know, going into the shop and fixing shop equipment and engineering equipment, office equipment, things that aren't directly a building item. I think roof upgrades might be in that number.
Yeah, you got 270,000, I believe, for the salt barn. We need to.
I got a
replace the
schedule for
hoist.
that, Brad.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of improvements that still need to be made here at this building.
So for 2021, real high level of the $29.4 million. Like, you know, a good portion of that is financing the facility, which is normal in our annual operations. But of that, 15% is millage, 46% is coming from our MTF funds. You just kind of see how the other funds kind of fill in, you know, our revenue. And I did the same thing on the expenditure side. Because of all the outside money and the millage money, we're able to do about half of the expenditure to projects, construction projects, preservation, structural improvements. Maintenance would be our routine maintenance. And I think traffic services was included in this one. I didn't split it out on this graph. Winter maintenance, I always kept separate. We do a fair amount of winter maintenance here. And then this is our capital outlay, which I have more schedules. I thought this one was kind of interesting. So I took the state, I think back in August, had a spreadsheet out of what they're estimating fiscal year 2021 to be. They're not always very accurate. In fact, I think they're probably a little conservative on this one, but it's the best information I had, so I kind of went with it. But it shows of the money we get from the state, how do we collect it? So the vast majority of what we get goes to primary roads, which we can see on the bottom bar chart. We get about $9 million going to the primaries, and about a little over 4 million out of our MTF we have to spend on the local road system. So of the primary, most of that is coming from vehicle registration fees. We get about $6 million coming from that. Our per mile, we have 257 primary miles in the county, which generates almost $700,000. Each county gets a same share of, I think it's like 15% of the MTF dedicated to primary. So our share is, and everybody's share is $1.3 million there. And because, you know, we're kind of unique, we have an urban area up here, so we get additional money. The state takes 10% off the top and dedicates it to urban mileage. So of the primary mileage in the urban areas, we're getting another $1,045,000 and $458,000 for the local road system. We have 763 local road miles, and that generates $2.2 million. And then the local road system also gets funding on a per person. And we had, at last census, we had 70,581 in the rural area, and that generates $1.5 million. So it's kind of nice to kind of see, you know, where the funding from Lansing kind of trickles down to us and how it gets to us. Here's I think I shared this last year, just kind of a historical revenue, kind of showing, you know, trends, stacking the different types of funding that we receive. And you can kind of see some bars are very similar, some are growing. It's kind of nice. The other financing at 18, obviously we had South Airport, and then we have the Kingsley facility in 2021. So that kind of skews the top numbers, but everything else, you know, is trending favorably. The federal sources, that's all project based, so that's going to bounce around on us. But the big blue one, that's the one I'm most concerned about. This is when they had the 2015 package. You know, they phased it in over 5 years, and fiscal year 2021 is the last year of that phase in where the state's dedicating $600 million of general fund monies to the Michigan Transportation Fund. And I believe our share of that 600 million is about 2.4 million. So we need to make sure our legislators don't take that off the table and try to move it somewhere else. Because that's very, very important to our current operations and what we're trying to accomplish here. And in, you know, all the capacity work and, you know, maintaining and improving the existing road network. Very similar for the expenditure side. You know, they tend to follow the revenues. Can't spend it if you don't have it. With construction projects, you know, it's kind of interesting. We only had $6 million of construction projects back in 2017. That wasn't that long ago, and now we're close to $15 million.
Yes, Jason.
A question, and it's related to this, I guess, but has the census given us any indication whether or not we're going to be falling into a metropolitan area more broadly, and does that affect our MTF funds allocation at all?
The last reports we had they were still, you know, we were still behind reporting for Grand Traverse County overall, but it did look like we were on target to hit that metropolitan designation. So the biggest thing there is, you know, for locals, you have that population factor that's going to go up some, you're going to see something there. But the biggest thing is, if that happens, you know, you're not going to see it until 2022 at the earliest. So, you know, they have to go through and adjust everything and then add in the new units. And so it'll take effect after about 2 years. And at that point, then, yes, the biggest thing that comes about is there are some statutory revenues that we will get because of certain things, but there are also certain requirements that you are then forced to fall under. So you basically, that money is supposed to cover the expense of meeting these new requirements. the biggest thing is you are now eligible for bigger and more grants. And that's where you start seeing, you know, your really takeoff type projects where you can start putting together a 5-mile corridor type project instead of a mile at a time. So, but yes and no, it will be there, but not this year and maybe not even next year.
All right, thanks. And Phil, if you could, I was checking to see if I had this in any of my packet information or anything, but this must be new enough that we didn't get this delivered.
I
to us.
updated it this earlier today.
Okay, so if you could just send it on.
Absolutely. Yeah, I wanted to review it with staff first.
Cool.
So preliminary construction projects, the top portion here, this is basically our engineering department. I know they're going to charge some time to projects. I don't know particularly which ones. So I just kind of pulled some of their time out of their overhead account and just put it in here, knowing they'll charge direct. Maybe simply just to try to get the overhead allocation a little closer to maybe what it might actually be. You know, with the millage projects, got 4.489 million. The number here says 4,768,000 simply because of the overhead allocation of engineering across the projects as I'm showing now. Obviously, as projects change, the allocation will change as well, because at the end of the year, all their costs in 516 get pushed back into where we did the work. So I'll apologize. I keep getting that pop up. The federal aid projects, I got River Road, Garfield Road, and then Walton Road. That one was bid late in the year. It did come in under budget, so we were able to use a little more category D economic development funds, and we kind of did a revised contract which you approved at the last meeting, and then potentially selling off our 2021. If we sell it, we'll just take that 452 and add it to our asset management plan projects. Try to pull some up ahead. We currently have 4 known probable SAD projects. You know, one of them is borderline, I think, at this point, but I think Springbrook is a go-ahead. We have an estimate out for Skegmog Point. Hampshire SAD, we gave them an estimate, that's a no-go. I believe Timber Hills is a go, and I'm not 100% on Scenic Hills.
And I can tell you, I'm real quick on that. The Hampshire did not meet requirements for approval from the group in that area, so that's why they are definitely out. They were only able to get to about 40%. The Springbrook, we are going through the first public meeting on the 22nd of December, and they have to have, you know, their series of meetings to discuss it, and then we start actually going into construction phase. Skegmog Point, there is still a lot of discussion on that. Wayne attempted to attend their meeting online last night to get some more feedback from them, but they want to make a special meeting to discuss that because a lot of that is going to be out of their funds, not under a SAD. And then Scenic Hills is just a massive, massive project. It's a lot of roads in there. And so that one, they're kind of still working their way through, and we have to be able to tell them, because of the number of roads, whether or not we can design this in-house in 1 year or not, or it may be something that we have to contract out design on. So, but they are, you know, we are starting to see some substantial interest in SADs from from a lot of the townships. So that's a good thing.
And I think in the past, it's been the board policy to kind of set aside $500,000 towards matching projects. If all 4 of these were to go, we potentially would be looking at just over $1 million of local match, with townships kicking in about 1.8 million. You know, not every year they've always spent it. My philosophy is anytime we can get matching money, it's good for us because we can get rid of some eyesores and and people are happy, and we can kind of accomplish more when we have good partnerships, you know, with the townships and the residents. I thought, and you'll see it in the 2020 as well, but I thought it was important to split out the effort we're doing on the east-west corridor improvements separately. So the Boardman Crossing, that's the Pell study. That'll come through with the budget amendment after we close out 2020. But that'll be reported in the other year until we can kind of get things into the first budget amendment. We had the first two traffic signals were slated for 2020 construction, but those are getting kicked over into 2021.
And-
South Airport and Lafreniere, and then North Long Lake and Barnes.
Yeah,
And then-
North Long Lake and Barnes isn't truly an east-west, but it is part of the Scoot system connection, so it is something that needs to be addressed. So
Yeah, that
North
might be
Long
my
Lake
bad.
and Barnes. It's outside the actual east-west corridor, but it is something that we want to incorporate with the upgrade to all the signals.
And I'll pull that out and I'll show that as other projects then, because I kind of wanted to treat the east-west as relating to the study and the efforts we're trying to accomplish there. The South Airport and Silver Lake, that was slated for 2021. That's a pretty big one. That's adding additional capacity for a turn lane at that intersection too. That's where South Airport tees into Silver Lake. That's, you know, a much needed intersection. And then we have construction on the Hammond and 4 Mile roundabout. OHM gave us a preliminary estimate. So I incorporated that at this point. Obviously, when things get bid, we'll have to revisit it, but it's the best information we have at this juncture. And then the balance of the Keystone and Cass, there may be a utility pole relocation. I got that in there for 2021. These are the Cass and then the river, those would be 2022, or, you know, depending on funding in future years. The M137 construction project, because those funds were restricted and we already received those, I have that money sitting in a special account at Michigan Class. 2020, I showed the expenditure the same as the revenue, so the fund balance was 0. That way, once we get actual costs, I'll pull that through in a budget amendment and show so ultimately the revenue will be in 2020, and then the expenditure will be in hopefully 2021. I think they're looking at that culvert, realigning the culvert on that project, and then doing a surface treatment. And then the balance, to get me to a targeted fund balance of $4 million, I kind of worked through the other schedules and plugged 335, which we potentially could roll into the asset management plan as well. You know, before we were trying to shoot for 3.3 with, you know, these culverts and big ticket items. It'd be nice to have a little more healthier fund balance to have available to address those issues that do pop up, and then also for cash flow. You know, we're always 2 months late on MTF. That's in fund balance, that's not in the bank account, and then there's a lot of fund balance and inventory and things of that nature that you know, it's not in the checking account. So we want to make sure we always maintain positive cash flow. So that's it for the construction project. I also kind of did this. I showed like a high level breakdown of the other funding sources, so we can see what's coming in from federal, state, and then what our portion would be of those projects.
Okay.
Do you guys have any questions on the projects?
Looks good.
Thank you.
Busy year next year.
Yes. A couple of light things I'd like to make sure that were clear as he went through this. You know, as he said, we have a substantial potential investment into special assessment districts. In the previous 2 years, we've come nowhere near spending the $500,000. that we normally put in the budget. If we can get that million, I think it is a wise time to take advantage of it and get that, especially since we have not done it really. We've not hit that target for 2 years. The east-west, it's nice having that breakout to also show where we're looking to go for, you know, notification, letting the citizens know where money is going to meet these guidelines and goals that we were given by the First East-West. And obviously those are signal projects also. And we will be starting our first roundabout construction next summer. So that's going to be our, you know, big ticket item for the east-west corridor. One of the other things, obviously, we do have some facilities that are going to be maintained. We have some issues with the roof over the salt barn that we're going to replace. A hoist that needs to be replaced in the garage.
You're ahead of me, Brad.
Huh?
You're ahead of me.
I'm trying, man. I thought we were done.
Almost. I got 2 more slides.
All right, let him finish then.
So capital outlay expenditures, I kind of showed this graph on what we've historically since 2017 put into the buildings and then road equipment. 2018, 19, those are big years. We got some extra funding from the state and there was carryover. So we kind of advanced more trucks. We think we did 6 trucks the one year. And then last year we did a loader and a grader in 1 year. So that's kind of bumped up. So now we're kind of back to our kind of the fleet management plan of putting in 3 winter maintenance trucks a year, 3 pickups. So the detail of that, you know, we're looking at a dump trailer for picking up garbage and things like that. We got our normal pickups. The 2021 trucks are already here. They're getting upfitted, and that's already been approved for the $389,000 expenditure. And then with the timing of the build outs, we'd like to get the 2022 builds started in 2021. So we'd do 3 cab and chassis at that time, you know, this year. And then by the time they're built out, we'll have them for the following winter season. We need to get a bucket truck for Haley so she can go out and maintain our signals. And we'll work with the city. Hers is not being used, the one she left at the city. So hopefully we can work something out with them. It's perfect for her setup and what she needs to do. And she's pretty geeky about it. And it'd be great to kind of get that for her to maintain. We also have in here a mini excavator that where we're not renting, you know, we have something to go out and tackle these culvert projects and have something on site that they can mobilize and get these culverts replaced, you know, easily without, you know, using our, you know, other equipment, which is generally, you know, overkill for those types of projects. Let's see, little wheel loader in the yard with pallet forks for moving stuff around, loading the hot boxes. Current loader is just too big to load the hot boxes. So something to load materials. And then we'd also be looking at another mower tractor. Staff will need to sit down with operations and look at the configurations. This was the last build. That's not necessarily what we would build for the next one, depending on the use. But they'll have those discussions to get it outfitted, you know, for, you know, what works best for the maintenance crews. Kingsley facility, with the new site, there's going to be infrastructure improvements. We're going to have to put utilities in. We're going to have to level it off. So we kind of set some money aside for that. 300,000, about 4.3 million possibly for the build, because we have a much bigger area than the other location. The building could be, you know, slightly larger than what we were trying to cram into the old space. We do need to look at the salt barn roof here in Traverse City. I guess it's, you know, leaking, and that'll be something we'll need to work with the state, because the state initially shared in the cost of that build. So we'll work with MDOT to see if they have funds available to share in that. And if they don't, then they're going to get charged through our maintenance contract. But since they are already a partner in that facility, it'd be nice for them to share in that significant investment as well. Carry over from 2020 security upgrades. Dan was looking at doing about 10 door replacements. A lot of them are getting rusted out from the salt, especially the ones that are facing the salt building. They're corroding, so we're looking at getting some doors, possibly fiberglass, to keep them from rusting out on us. Also have an overhead door in the shop, and then miscellaneous building improvements. Last year we used it for the air compressor and then fixing the hallway. There's always, capital outlay type stuff through the year as these buildings age that we need to address. So it'd be nice to kind of have that placeholder out there so we can kind of tackle those as they pop up on us. Looking at a hoist replacement for the big trucks out back. That estimates could be about $100,000. Excuse me. I'm almost there. Scoot system, that was another one from 2020 that we moved over to 2021. We do have good costs on that. That'll get us, I think, 20 intersections. And we're probably due for a phone system upgrade. Once we're up and running with CityWorks and Larry gets a little more time, maybe that could be a nice feature to upgrade. And I think the county recently upgraded their system as well. Looking at setting aside money for tablets. This would be tablets not only for the board, but also the crew as we implement CityWorks and using locations for fixes and that, having devices out in the field to capture the actual work, will be important for us to have to get it as the job is done and not trying to recap at the end of the day. So it's 7.2 million, with the facility bill, it's probably, it's a pretty big capital outlay year as well, but obviously we would want to finance at least the construction, which would be a net fund balance to us of about 2.9 million. Again, another big year, and got Scoot and excuse me. Any questions? I can hand it over to Brad if not.
I'm good.
All right.
I'm fine. I guess just a quick question on Scoot. Is this kind of the 2021 spending bring us up to, we're scooted up?
Yes, that would be the end of everything that we have for the actual implementation of it. We do still have those other projects where we're upgrading and like the intersection. But as far as the computers and the controls and everything else, this will bring us up to speed so that we have the Scoot going. We actually had the people from Siemens up here about 3 weeks ago, I would say, and they are ready to put together their implementation plan for the Scoot system and start actually putting the signals in place and getting them all tied together. But that is the total cost that they have given us to do that implementation.
Okay, this is just the county, our signals. This doesn't include yet the integration of our system with MDOT. Is that correct?
Correct. And we are going to have to work with MDOT in detail on a lot of this stuff. Typically, they don't like to let go of their signals, but if we can show that we are, as good or better than they are, which I think we should be able to do, because we have a dedicated person right here in town. I think we can work something out where we can jump in. We already have Haley answering dispatch calls for them. Like if something goes out, she goes out first to look at it. And if she can just do a reset, she can do that. But if not, and she needs to call them, then she will call them for it. But, she's got that capability. She's working with the MDOT folks on a regular basis, and she's working to move into that. I also talked to Marty Coburn about this, and he would like us to at least start taking over some of their maintenance now that we have Haley in here and she's really getting up to speed, and we will be able to dedicate her essentially full time to signals. So when that happens, then we'll be able to take to account the city's lights. And then at some point, we will put together, at their cost, obviously, but we will put together a plan for them to start upgrading some of their signals and hopefully be able to get us corridors that flow from the county into the city completely through the entire network without having, that stop of efficiency at the city limits all the time. And it is going to be a very busy year again. Obviously, we have a lot going on. We're ready for it. We've got, staff's already out doing a lot of collection for projects for next year. And the field guys, we've got, we're real comfortable with our new superintendent. He's working with the crews to try and get them a new training matrix so that they have a clear path to what they need to do, and at which point then they will be able to start getting more people qualified to operate our equipment. So we never should have equipment sitting for a lack of an operator. And we're getting very good with with several people. They've taken it on, and it sounds like we have a pretty good buy-in from a lot of the union folks that want to see some improvement as far as a path for them. So when they come in year 1, they know by year 15, whatever it is, 10, they're at a point where they are able to operate all of the equipment. So we're really going to have a busy year. This budget, I think, is pretty sound. We're going to increase the fund balance, and we still have a little bit of fluff in there that we will be able to potentially pull. It really depends on how those bid prices come in. And if we start getting bid prices with asphalt as low as it has been, we're going to do just fine. We're going to put a lot of work next year.
So is this budget ready to go, other than the change you're going to make from Long Lake and Zimmerman, pretty much?
I think so, yeah. Well, this will pretty much be what we take to the public hearing at, the next board meeting.
So basically what we need right now is a approval from you to set the public hearing date and get the publication for the public hearing, if you don't have anything else that you want to question right now.
I'm good with that. I'd make that motion, and we set a hearing date. Do we have a desired time?
I would say just put it on the next regular scheduled meeting will be our public hearing first.
Okay, make that motion.
I'll support.
Motion by Jason, supported by Bill, to set the public hearing on the budget at the beginning of our next regularly scheduled meeting. I'm going to make one comment on here, just kind of backtracking a little bit before we move on. On the SADs, the comment that we hadn't done them in the last couple of years, I think if we are, I don't want to say overwhelmed, but if we have a massive amount of them this year, I certainly am in agreement with Phil that we need to look for money somewhere to make those things happen if we can. When you're participating like that, and you got that money coming in, and our residents are seeing the value in it, I think we got to set that same tone that we see the value in it. So
yeah. And we definitely will make it something that we will find a way to get them done. If they are ready to go, we will get them done.
Right. Okay. Anything further? Bill, anything?
Nope. I guess
Nope.
if the township pull their end of the cart, we'll certainly be there on the other end pushing away.
All right. Kylie.
Gilman,
Yes.
McKellar, absent and excused. Mauser
Yes.
and Brown.
Yes. Okay, I guess that brings us to item number 7. Kylie, I guess you probably ought to read the public comment rules again.
We have nobody on other than staff right now.
Oh,
So
everybody left us?
everybody bailed. So
Okay.
Am I that bad?
No, you're that good.
I put him to sleep.
Oh, well, all right, I guess we close the public comment, and Jason, it's your turn again.
Move to adjourn.
If they need support, I guess I'll do that.
All right, and all those in favor, say aye. Aye.
I-
All right.
thank
Very
you
good.
all.
Everyone have,
You know,
Thanks.
Yep.